for the government of the Virgin Islands. We are very pleased to have this very important press conference today as we have our Premier to give us an update on his latest travel to the UK. I want to recognize, before we officially start, our Permanent Secretary for the Premier's Office, Mrs. Carolyn Stout-Igwe, our Chief of Staff, Mr. Kedrick Malone. I should have said first, the Honourable Vincent Wheatley, Minister of Health. He said thank you. So let me go ahead and do that over. Let me recognize first the Honourable Vincent Wheatley from the 9th District and Minister for Health. Good morning, sir. I apologize. And going down the line, I want to say good morning again to the Deputy Financial Secretary, Mr. Jeremy Vanterpool, also Acting Permanent Secretary for the Ministry of Financial Services, Mrs. Sophia Berkeley, and Chief Executive Officer, for BVI Finance, Miss Elise Donovan. Of course, we want to say thanks to the media. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate you all. I did. I called PS Igwe first. I did. PS Igwe saved me here. I called you first. We recognize the media and thank you again for your patience, and of course, GIS staff and the comms staff. We are late today, so we won't have too much pomp and circumstance. We are here to hear the Premier and the Premier only. Going to give him 2 seconds to just catch his breath, but I want you to listen intently. And of course, we invite the media to ask at least 4 questions if they want. No pressure from us now today. Take your time, ask the questions. And we will invite our Premier, the Honourable Dr. Natalio D, Premier and Minister for Finance, to give us our featured address. Premier?
Thank you, Kyria. And let me say good morning, Minister Wheatley, Permanent Secretaries, Sister Elise Donovan, CEO of BVI Finance, members of the media, and all of those viewing this press conference and listening on the radio. Thank you for the opportunity to share this update on my bilateral meeting with the United Kingdom Overseas Territories Minister, Honourable Stephen Doughty, that took place last week in London, as well as other meetings in the UK Parliament. At the bilateral, I discussed with the Minister his final assessment of the implementation of the Commission of Inquiry recommendations. We discussed the progress made and my administration's commitment to good governance. Minister Doughty commended the governance reform program and indicated that a final decision would be made based on our meeting and a follow-up meeting with the Foreign Secretary later this month. I was encouraged by the open and constructive discussion with Minister Doughty, and I look forward to the Foreign Secretary's decision. We also discussed our partnership in the financial services space. The Minister commended the Virgin Islands' success in the application of sanctions. I thanked him for the support provided by the UK to help build our capacity. We also had a constructive exchange on the Virgin Islands' new legitimate interest access regime on beneficial ownership. I shared the progress we are making on our new beneficial ownership register. I emphasized the Virgin Islands' strong track record on beneficial ownership information exchange. Since 2018, the BAR system has met the highest standards of collation of beneficial ownership information. UK law enforcement can receive request information almost immediately. We will continue to fulfill our exchange of notes commitments and 28 tax information exchange agreements. Following the bilateral meeting, I was pleased to participate in the UK Overseas Territories Illicit Finance Dialogue, where I joined other OT leaders in discussing issues including beneficial ownership transparency, sanctions enforcement, and preparations for the Foreign Secretary's Illicit Finance Dialogue in 2026. In my remarks on access to beneficial ownership information on the basis of legitimate interests, I stated that we are committed to launching the Virgin platform by early 2026. I again reminded participants that the BVI, as one of the world's largest company registries, has long followed global standards. Our new beneficial ownership regime, together with the exchange of notes with the UK and our 28 tax information exchange agreements, remain central to our international regulatory regime. Anti-corruption czar Baroness Hodge was present for the illicit finance dialogue along with Minister Doughty. I was very pleased to extend an invitation to her to visit the Virgin Islands so that she can learn more about how our authorities tackle illicit finance as a well-regulated jurisdiction. She graciously accepted, and we look forward to welcoming her here in due course. Alongside these government meetings, my team and I met with several members of the UK Parliament to ensure they have a clear and accurate picture of the Virgin Islands, not just as a financial services centre, but as a proud, responsible democracy of strong people and enduring values. I was particularly honoured to call on the Speaker of the House of Commons, the Right Honourable Sir Lindsay Hoyle MP, who extended a warm welcome and commended us on the completion of our governance reforms. In addition to Sir Lindsay, we were pleased to meet Jack Rankin MP from the Conservative Party, Dr. Al Pinkerton MP from the Liberal Democrats, and Sarah Champion MP, the Labour Chair of the International Development Committee. The level of interest of these MPs was welcome, as was their commitment to support the Virgin Islands in the area of climate change and their support for a dedicated climate fund for the overseas territories. We are preparing to celebrate 75 years of parliamentary democracy, a milestone that reflects our courage, our resilience, and our belief in democratic self-governance. As we look toward that celebration, I assure you that our voice is being heard, our efforts are being recognized, and our values are being respected on the world stage. I thank the people of the Virgin Islands for continuing to believe in the journey that we are on together. Thank you. I'll be happy to take questions from the media.
Thank you very much, Premier. Very quick and brief remarks, but poignant. We did start late, so we're going to go ahead and ask the media to do the usual. Please rise and give us your name and the media house with whom you represent, and go ahead and ask your questions. Don't be too shy.
Good morning, Premier. Good morning, everyone. Kathy Richards, JTV News. Premier, could you explain a little bit for us the Virgin platform that you spoke of to be launched?
Yes, of course. We've had for some time now Virgin platform, which is the platform we use at our company register to maintain the companies on the Virgin Islands register. The significant part about the Virgin platform right now is that we're transitioning from our BOSS system, a system that was developed by BDO somewhere around 2018 or so, 2017, 2018. And that BOSS system was to be able to access beneficial ownership information from which our registered agents had, and to competent authorities in the UK and other places. Okay, so we're making a transition from that BOSS system to the information being centralized at our company registrar, and we're using our own Virgin platform that we developed to be able to do that. So it's somewhat of an upgrade of the Virgin platform to have information on beneficial ownership, and also we're doing the same with economic substance.
Okay, very often when we have transformations like those, when you upgrading from one system to the other, is where most times you find cracks develop and information gets compromised. What mechanisms are in place to make sure that we have that smooth, seamless transfer?
Well, that's why we are taking our time with it, Kathy. Of course, we have been under pressure to bring that regime in place earlier, but we want to ensure when persons access our register on a legitimate interest access basis, that the information is there, that we've gone through our checks and balances, that we've done user testing, and that persons who qualify for exemptions, that they have the opportunity to apply for those exemptions, and that we're able to migrate the data and populate the platform. So that's why we're taking our time, so we don't make those type of mistakes.
Where is the home of Virgin Platform? Is it locally based and all the operatives are locally based, or is it a system where we utilize experts overseas?
Well, experts overseas help us to develop the platform. It's online based. And that's perhaps maybe the farthest I'll go with that, in terms of security.
Okay, thank you. My next question comes to your meeting with the overseas minister, Doughty, and as it relates to the removal of the order in council. I know that is something that everyone's anticipating with great anxieties. How comfortable are you when you would have had that conversation with him that, it's going to do what you have been waiting for so long?
Well, I was certainly pleased that Minister Doughty acknowledged our progress on the Commission of Inquiry recommendations implementation. He certainly acknowledged that we did everything that we've been asked to do. He was particularly concerned about ensuring that we can sustain the level of progress that we've made on the Commission of Inquiry into perpetuity. So that is something certainly that I would say they would be very conscious of. How do we ensure that it's sustained through possible different administrations, sustained into the future? But he did acknowledge that we and commended and applauded us for the work that we did on the Commission of Inquiry. We also had discussions on, of course, beneficial ownership information, and we also had an illicit finance dialogue where we had a conversation with all the overseas territories. And of course, let me just say, as it pertains to the legitimate interest access, I'm pleased that Minister Doughty, the FCDO, and even Baroness Hodge, the anti-corruption czar, has acknowledged that legitimate interest access is the way to go. As you know, previously, the United Kingdom wanted fully public, open registers. But I was very pleased that even Baroness Hodge acknowledged that the direction of travel now is legitimate interest access, especially following the landmark decision that struck down the 5th anti-money laundering directive of the EU on, anti-money laundering directive. So we're on the right track. Of course, the United Kingdom, of course, would have wanted our system to come online earlier. We acknowledge that. And we also acknowledge that they may have some challenges with some aspects of our policy. But certainly I took the opportunity to explain to Minister Doughty that the regime that we have come up with and the policy that we have come up with was in strong consultation with our industry. It was it's after receiving sound legal advice. It was after we scrutinized very carefully our constitutional safeguards, like the right to privacy, also the right to have persons' data protected and managed responsibly. And we also had to acknowledge that this is not a global standard. And of course, the best way to tackle any challenge and any problem is to have a global standard. So until we have that global standard, there are limitations in terms of how far we can go. But Minister Doughty, of course, I believe, understood the position, and we pledged to have further dialogue, ongoing dialogue.
Okay. A little bit more on the Commission of Inquiry results, which would have led to you completing the recommendations. I know throughout the process, we have been engaging regional counterparts and other overseas territories who you would have probably learned lessons from and garnering support. We keep seeing quite a number coming out to say yes, they are confident that this ordering council is going to be removed and they're standing tall. what you would have heard from our international, regional counterparts as it relates to lessons learned from what the Virgin Islands would have experienced as a result of that Commission of Inquiry.
Well, all our regional counterparts have commended us. We went to CARICOM, and they've commended our efforts in completing our governance reforms. The C24 at the UN, they've commended it. Just about every international body, the ACS, the OECS, have commended our resilience in being able to complete those governance reforms. It's a story of resilience. It's a story of great success because, of course, we're proud of the reforms which we have been able to make. They've taken some time, Kathy, and of course, they've divided our attention from other pressing needs right here in our own community. But I want to let the people of the Virgin Islands know this process was absolutely essential to maintaining our democracy and maintaining good governance moving into the future. And it serves as a foundation for future democratic advancement and future success. But in terms of lessons learned, there have been many lessons learned along the way. Of course, it wasn't all smooth sailing. And I think the process that we've gone through in implementing these reforms, the command structure that we developed to get things done, is one that we should use in helping all our government systems operate more efficiently and more effectively. Some of the same structures we use to do the COI implementation, we should use to ensure that we get our infrastructure properly developed, to make sure that our social protection systems are working well, and that we are able to deliver public services at a high level, a much higher level than we're doing right now.
Thank you, Premier.
Thank you.
Good questions, Ms. Kathy. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Beverly Lewis at BVI. Premier Wheatley, with the concerns that Minister Doughty expressed about the BVI being able to sustain the progress made, how are you able to assure him that this will be done, way beyond your administration as well?
That's a very good question. Certainly, we've implemented things in law. We've passed policies. And of course, the focus now is on public education. The focus right now is on training. The focus right now is ensuring that we have information accessible to the public. When it comes to beyond the administration, the greatest tool that we have is ensuring that the public themselves have understood what it is we're doing, and the public themselves will defend it and hold their leaders accountable to implementing it. And it's something that is extremely serious, Sister Beverly. It's not something that the public should take for granted. Because let's say, for instance, we have an administration that comes to office and they seek to reverse some of the progress we've made. Minister Doughty and his team made it very clear that they're going to have mechanisms in place to ensure that the progress that we have made is not to be reversed. So if we want to ensure that we stay on a firm ground and we are able to continue to advance as a democracy, I would say it's important for whatever administration takes office at the next election to ensure that these reforms are not just sustained, but we build upon them, and we ensure that they work well.
Do you get the sense that the UK really wants to remove the Ordering Council? Because every time we hear that, yes, they're pleased with the progress, they're pleased. But do you get that sense?
Well, it's a good question. I can only take them at their word. Minister Doughty expressed that he was pleased that we did what we were supposed to do. But I know there are some persons, unfairly so, who might want to see that Ordering Council remain because they have other concerns separate from the Commission of Inquiry. Let's take, for instance, beneficial ownership, information exchange. There may be some persons who might be seeking to influence the minister to have, and the foreign secretary. It's ultimately a decision for the foreign secretary to have that order in council remain. So we're just hopeful that the minister and the foreign secretary can keep those issues separate, can recognize that we did what we were supposed to do under the framework agreement, can lift that order in council, and all the other issues that we are in dialogue on, we remain constructively engaged on those issues.
Away from the OT meeting now, here at home, the crime situation is getting increasingly concerning.
Yes.
We've heard of 17-year-olds being caught with high-powered weapons.
Yes.
Also, police being shot at. We practically haven't been hearing about those things. You sit at the National Security Council.
Yes.
I know you spoke about a crime summit, but what sort of other measures, and I know you may not be able to tell me exactly the strategies, but what measures are going to be put in place to ensure that this is being kept on a low?
It's important to note that the police are having significant progress in apprehending those who commit crime. So while we've had some incidents, very serious incidents, the police detection rate is I would say is something that we can take some level of comfort in, because they are able to investigate and in many instances arrest and charge. And I was also happy that we got a conviction in a very serious case recently. But that is not enough, because as you have noted, we have young persons, and the incidents are increasingly alarming, increasingly reckless, and obviously there's more than that must be done beyond just police work. It has to do with our communities, it has to do with our families, it has to do with our education system, it has to do with our social protection systems, and that's why we're bringing everybody together for this crime summit. And it's not just an event, but we want to be able to come out of that crime summit with a strategy that we can sustain moving forward and really change course and change trajectory for many of these young persons who unfortunately are entering into a life of crime.
At the CARICOM Summit, when you spoke with Carrier, that interview on the sidelines, you mentioned cooperating with Jamaica because they have an advanced level of dealing with crimes in terms of their forensic technology. How advanced are you in terms of moving that forward?
Well, the trip to Jamaica was important, being able to see their capabilities. I've engaged the Royal Virgin Islands Police Force, informally, but formally at our next National Security Council. I'm going to raise it formally. But I engaged the acting deputy commissioner, who is actually from Jamaica, very familiar with Jamaica. Actually, we received assistance from Jamaica recently, particularly forensics unit, to give us some assistance with some investigations. So the relationship is there, but I've engaged them about how we can work more closely, particularly with Jamaica's kind of new focus on organized crime. They have a specialized unit on organized crime, and unfortunately I believe that we have some elements of that here, organized crime, and it has to be treated just a little differently. And I believe that Jamaica understands that very well, and we can value from the resources. So once I raise it formally in the National Security Council, we're going to see if we could perhaps take another trip to Jamaica with some law enforcement officials. Of course, this is an area that falls under the governor, so of course I want the governor and the National Security Council's full support on it, but that's something that I'm going to propose.
Okay, so my final question has to do with food security. And at that same interview with the Director of Communications, you praised Guyana's efforts in terms of their food security.
Yes.
Now, we took a trip to Guyana.
Yes.
And in terms of that bearing fruit, where food security is concerned, is yet to be seen. There was a particular Caribbean country that went after BVI, and we saw that they had an MOU with Guyana as regards to their food and agriculture. What is our position right now as it concerns that Guyana trip and the results?
Well, on a CARICOM level, one important thing that's being established is transportation. So there has been great progress towards ferries that will go from Suriname and Guyana and come up the island chain. Now, in the meantime, what we're doing on the OECS and the CARICOM level is harmonizing our policies and laws. I would have gone to St. Vincent some time ago, and I was at the OECS assembly where they would have been debating bills on the free circulation of goods, etc. So the process we're going through now is to ensure that we harmonize our customs regimes, harmonize our agricultural regimes, and all of the different regimes to allow the free flow of goods throughout the various OECS and CARICOM countries. So of course all of us would like to see things move a little quicker, but things are happening, things are in motion, and to be honest with you, the progress has increased since United States tariff regime. It seems like that was the kick in the butt all of us needed to be able to get our act together, and things are moving now, and I'm heartened, not just with what's happening in CARICOM, but you have various countries in South America, Central America, Latin America, and we're developing new trade routes. Particularly the one which is of interest to us is Dominican Republic. So we will be going to the Dominican Republic soon to be able to sign an MOU. And that one, because Dominican Republic is a lot closer than Guyana, is the one that we expect that can yield even more immediate results. And we already have a certain level of trade and relationship with the Dominican Republic.
But just as a follow-up, there was certain things that was specific to the BVI and Guyana trade mission in terms of agriculture that I wanted you to speak specifically to.
Yeah, so we're going to have some follow-up on what has been agreed in terms of the MOU. So perhaps we can take that up at another time. But certainly we can report back progress on the specific elements of the MOU with Guyana.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beverly. Much appreciated.
Good morning, Mr. Premier. Sean Connolly, Business Editor of the BVI Beacon. You said earlier that you'd invited the Anti-Corruption Czar, Baroness Hodge, here, but the Minister Doughty, said that he'd told her to come. You can't both be right, so who's correct in this, you or the Minister Doughty?
Well, actually, to be honest with you, I was a little surprised at how the visit was characterized in some of the media reports. That doesn't reflect my recollection at all. Of course, we spoke about Baroness Hodge's visit during our bilateral, and I expressed to Minister Doughty that we would be happy to invite Baroness Hodge to the BVI. And then I followed up in the illicit finance dialogue, and there were several persons on the call, so certainly many persons can bear me out. I took that opportunity in that dialogue to invite Baroness Hodge to the Virgin Islands. So this whole concept that she's being deployed on a fact-finding mission to figure out why progress is lagging in the Virgin Islands is not necessarily the narrative that I would endorse. Certainly we're inviting her here because we believe she can benefit from engaging with our very responsible professionals here who have been doing a yeoman's work in terms of sharing beneficial ownership information over years, and being somewhat of a standard as it pertains to the responsible transfer of beneficial ownership information, and also the fight against illicit finance, which we take very seriously. So when we listen to Baroness Hodge, we don't necessarily hear reflected all of the work that we're doing, and it's not necessarily a balanced perspective. So we thought we would invite her here. And of course, she had a desire to want to come here to engage on these particular issues.
Well, it's not media misrepresentation. It's a direct quote from Minister Doughty saying that he did send her here, he is sending her here, and it is a fact-finding mission. He said last week, quote, "Some of our overseas territories are making progress towards transparent, accessible registers of company ownership, but we have made clear we need to see rapid, consistent progress across the board. As an immediate next step, I have asked Baroness Hodge to undertake a fact-finding visit to the British Virgin Islands and report back to me. I will consider further steps carefully in light of the findings." So he's saying he did send her, she wasn't invited, and that it is a fact-finding mission on the BVI.
Yeah, well, I don't doubt that Minister Doughty directly made those statements, but in our bilateral and in the illicit finance dialogue, I indeed invited her.
Is he wrong to say that the onus was on him then, and it was his direction?
I'll leave you to determine whether he was wrong or right, or anybody else who's listening. But I'm making it very clear that we did invite her for whatever particular reason I just stated.
Well, he's made it clear that he did instruct her to come. It's a slap on the wrist for your government, really, isn't it, the way you've handled transparency?
Well, we just spoke about being 75 years of parliamentary democracy. We've worked hard to build a financial services industry, and we've worked hard to build a society that many persons want to come here and to live and work here. And, you know, we're not in a position where we are receiving slaps on the wrist from anyone. We are proud people. And, of course, we are dignified people. And we are doing what we have to do to be a responsible financial center and also to protect the industry, which provides a livelihood for many persons here in the Virgin Islands.
But it's hardly a vote of confidence in what's going on here, is it, if the minister responsible for the overseas territories is specifically sending the anti-corruption czar here?
Well, what I would say is on this particular issue, we have to remain engaged and in dialogue. And that's why we're inviting Baroness Hodge here, so that we can engage, so that we can give her our perspective, hopefully, that a little more balance would be reflected in her views. And we would hope as well, among certain parliamentarians and other groups in the United Kingdom and other places, that they'll have a little more balance in their views. Sometimes they make quite, I would say, reckless and outlandish statements in regards to the Virgin Islands. And the Virgin Islands isn't really that caricature that they've painted us to be.
Okay, staying on transparency, you've consistently refused to answer questions about the missing $5 million of public money that went into the collapsing Bank of Asia. When do you expect the auditor's report to actually deliver and be made public?
I haven't received a update on that. But let me just say, in terms of you're saying that I refuse to answer questions, you know, you can't have a dog and back too as well, you know. So if I've asked for an investigation into it and other persons have called for an investigation, wouldn't it be prudent to allow the investigation to be completed before I start speaking about things? Just seems reasonable to me.
Well, you have been speaking about it. You've ruled out yourself making the £5 million placement within the bank, and also Lorna Smith. So you have spoken about it, but you won't say who did actually make it.
I think it will be helpful and useful just to receive the report, and then everybody will have all the facts.
But you don't know when the report will be coming out.
I'll see if I can get an update on that.
Okay. On the COI, you said that Mr. Lammy would be involved by the end of this month. Would you expect then that there'll be a final decision from London then? Because they've been saying for like nearly a year now that they were aiming for the end of June, and obviously that's passed.
Yeah, so I think the end of June for all of the different assessments to be completed, but we do expect a decision by the end of July.
Okay, finally, you mentioned that some organised crime was now emerging in the territory.
Yes.
Why is that suddenly happening now? What are the reasons for that, do you think? And how big a threat is it?
Well, it's a threat throughout the entire region, not just in the Virgin Islands. We're hearing similar kind of observations in all of the different countries in CARICOM, in the OECS. We know that groups are walking across national boundaries, and so it's important for us to all work together to confront this criminal organization that's essentially operating between South, Central America, and all of the islands in between, straight up to the United States and other places. These criminals have resources. They have lots of money. They have equipment. They have obviously they have access to guns, etc. So it is a real threat, and we have to confront it with the urgency and the seriousness that it deserves. We have asked the United Kingdom for more assistance because, of course, internal and external security is responsibility of the United Kingdom. We are grateful for like HMS Medway, for instance, being in the region as it is hurricane season. But we've even asked the United Kingdom for more permanent presence in the Caribbean to be able to disrupt human trafficking, drug smuggling, and gun smuggling. Of course, but we remain engaged with them. We're grateful for whatever assistance they've been able to provide, but certainly we believe with the threat that we face, more can be done.
You've identified it as a problem now, so could it be said that the territory previously had its guard down on this situation?
You mean in terms of?
In terms of preventing it or stopping them getting a foothold here, organised crime?
Well, I think it's a challenge for everybody. You know, I don't think necessarily you can say that it's not something that was taken serious before. But of course, we have to recognize the change in complexion of crime in our territory, and we have to put mechanisms in place to be able to deal with it, you know, similar to what Jamaica has done.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Sir Sean, thank you very much. We are coming to the close of our press conference today. Today is Monday, a very early Monday, July 21st, correct? July 21st. I want to also again recognize the presence of our Minister, the Honourable Vincent Wheatley, who is here, of course, in support of the Premier, and our senior officials, government officials. Once again, apologize for the late start, but we are in our promise to keep the BVI public and all those who are within the reach of our voice more updated on a more regular basis. So we hope that this quick update is sufficient for now. Thank you again to the press for your great and merciful patience. We thank you very much. We want to say, have a great week, folks. It is Monday. Be careful. God bless you all. Have a productive week. Again, my name is Carrier Christopher, the Acting Director of Communications for the Government of the Virgin Islands. Wishing you a wonderful week and God's blessings.